welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is our own pianist in residence, Sam Page. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
And I am in day 2 of being COVID-free, so still in the recovery stage, but feeling better, which is really, really important. And glad to have my co-host Sam Page joining me today. Sam, we have a guest joining us today who's going to tell us about a concept I haven't heard about before. Maybe you have. I don't know. Have you heard about dream pollination before?
I love that.
I mean, that's quite a term, isn't it?
Yeah, never heard it before, but
it kind of stimulates the brain cells, right? Like, okay, what is that? That sounds like that could be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
So let's find out. Debby Kruszewski is joining us today. She is the dream pollinator. And first of all, Debbie, thanks for joining us. Second of all, what's a dream pollinator? We got to find that out.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I know dream pollination does sound like a lot of fun, and I think that's why I decided to stick with that name. I believe that we're born with a dream on our heart for a reason, and that's why we're brought here. And we spend so much of our lives being told that dream on our heart doesn't belong to us. We don't deserve it. You shouldn't have it. But that's completely untrue. And the more I dug into my own journey and being crushed by my own dreams, I learned that the origin of my name is Devorah from Hebrew, and it is called the bee seeker. And so if you learn more about bees, you learn they're pretty fascinating and pretty impossible to fly, how do they do what they do? They make amazing honey. What they want for you is just to be successful and to be happy. And they don't want to bother you. They just want to work around you. And their thought process is, if I give you beautiful flowers, if I make sure that everything is in blooming color and beautiful, and we can make honey, and that makes you feel good inside. It's a healer as well. Then you're going to be happy and successful all day long. So I feel like my name was changed at the last minute. My dad wanted to name me Stephanie. My mom said, "Do you know what Stephanie Kruszewski looks like on a soccer uniform?"
A little forward thinking there.
It would be like the hole around my shoulders. And she's like, "I don't think so." And they went back and forth, and they decided on Deborah. And so I feel like there was that last minute change on purpose. And how many people really do that search on what their name means? So I believe that I was here with my special gift of being able to look at people and really see that they have so much potential, and to kind of help jog people on what their true purpose here is on earth. And that's what I felt I was really successful at all my time at corporate America, was putting people in the right jobs that was their skill set, that made them happy, made them want to come to work every day. And learning what my name meant, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just a pollination project. So I call it the Dream Pollination Project. And so far it makes everybody smile when they hear about it. So I must be doing something right.
Oh, absolutely. I like that.
I love it.
And I like the fact that you know the meaning of your name. I actually know the meaning of my name too. My name means commander of the army, which I actually had a little trouble with at first, because I'm not a violent person, but then I realized an army doesn't have to be about the military. It can be other kinds of armies too. So, okay, I can do that. I can be a commander of that kind of army. So that's okay with me. But now you brought in another topic there at the same time that you were describing that, dream crushing. And we talk a lot, of course, about how to achieve your dreams and how to, make changes and shifts in your life and so forth. And we also include a lot of stories about, the people who have the crash and burns, and lots of people experience that in their lives. But we don't really talk about the dreams themselves being crushed. That's another interesting concept. And well, you experienced it directly, so I guess that's where you brought the phrase in. But what do you think about when you think about somebody's dreams being crushed? That sounds pretty raw.
Well, I think our dreams get crushed all the time. And if we realize it or not, it happens more often. And then we adapt that, and we tell ourselves no. We tell ourselves you can't do that. And there's so many factors of, let's just say, for instance, I'm like, come on, guys, let's go on a hike to Kilimanjaro. And then the first thing everyone's gonna be like, well, no, I don't think so. That's crazy. Let's go skydiving. Well, no. And there's so many no's. And the first initial is, I don't even know why I said no. And the second is, I can't because, I have to feed my dog, or I have to wash my hair that day. And, and then you have to, when you get in deeper of, okay, well, I'm, it's far away. Oh, well, I don't have a passport. Okay, well, I can get you a passport. Oh, well, I don't have the money. I can't leave my job. Okay, well, I can take care of that. Oh, I'm not in good health. It's like, okay, well, there's an excuse and an excuse and an excuse.
Always have.
I'm sorry?
It's like always have an excuse ready. Woo.
Right. Yeah, like there's always when I do like a kickoff dream session, I always make sure that people know right away. I'm like, you're on a high, you're so excited. You started putting together a list of your dreams and you're like, oh my gosh, this feels so great. Like I'm going to do it. Like I'm going to become an astronaut tomorrow and I'm going to go skydiving and it's going to be amazing. And I'm like, okay, so bottle this high that you have right here because you're going to go home and you're going to be like, blah, 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 and you're going to go to your spouse, your family, whoever your first person is, and you're going to just start, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And they just sit there and they're like, no, you're not. And then you bring yourself all the way down and you're like, you're right, I'm not. And you just go back to your life. And then it's that piece of, well, I was right here 10 minutes ago and now I'm all the way down here. And now I can't even get back to here. So it's that dream crushing of, okay, this is going to happen. So let's prepare for it. You want to be an astronaut. That's amazing. Let's figure it out. Let's build a plan to get there. What does that mean? Just because that's what you can see in your head doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly what it is, right? So we build the layers. And then there is all of those layers that we put on ourselves of, I can't because of finances. I can't because of my health. I can't because I have to wash my hair. Like all of those, but the tops are the finances, the career, health. And then there's some mental that goes with that you pull excuses out of nowhere because you're trained so much to say no.
Yeah, I would argue we actually are tougher on ourselves than other people are.
Totally.
That we stop ourselves far more than anybody else stops us. We may say that the other person stopped us, but it was really us.
Yeah. You want to blame. It's easier. You notice the patterns, and I take people through the patterns of the first person you go to is usually the crusher first, because it's like, if I can get through this gatekeeper, then it can happen. But if I can't, then it won't happen. And like, you always giving somebody else permission to your dreams. So it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. And then that person's like, no. And you're like, yeah, you're right. I knew it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. I find for myself, actually, I'm the one who talks myself out of things. I have the big dream. I have the big idea. Like, yeah, except that can't really happen because this, and this are going to happen. So that's going to get in the way. And all of a sudden I've just ended the dream. But then I try to find another way back to it. Like, well, maybe no, but that's not going to work either. I'm constantly talking myself out of it.
That's relatable for sure. Cause I do the same thing, or at least I used to do it a lot more. Just like find anything like that could possibly be an obstacle. It's like, oh, well, that could happen. And it's like, well, you don't know that. It's like, kind of trust a little bit more, can't we?
Yeah, right. I mean, my main phrase in those circumstances is, yeah, but that's not realistic. That reality doesn't work that way.
Yeah, we just keep putting ourselves back into that category. And if you ever notice, you have that moment, right? And it's always in the back of your head and you're just like, no, my opportunity time passed, or that would have been great 10 years ago, but they evolve, and you can see it back when there's people in your life when they go and achieve something that seems so simple and it's such a struggle for you, and you get so upset and mad, and it's sort of like a jealousy, but at the same time, it's really you being mad at yourself of, why didn't I just do that? Why am I sitting here fighting with myself and not getting past that point? It's like couch to 5K. It's like, I'm sitting on the couch and that person just ran a marathon. Why? Like, how do they do that? They can't do that, and you go through all those motions. And it's really not being jealous of them. It's you being mad at your inner self for why did you hold me back from doing that? Why? There's no reason in the world why I couldn't do that.
That actually rings very true for me in the last few days, because I found myself doing exactly that kind of thing, and I was trying to find a way to turn it around, and I ended up doing some journaling where I just kept forgiving everything. I forgave myself, I forgave the circumstance, I forgave source energy, I forgave the person who I imagined was going to stop the thing. I mean, I was just forgiving all over the place, and that helped. It didn't completely clear it, but it helped to shift my perspective a little bit. But I'm curious to know, like, what do you recommend for somebody who's finding themselves constantly doing that? Because I suspect that probably is most of us.
Yeah, well, I love that you just mentioned that process that you went through, because that is actually a huge piece of something that I give my clients to go, a part of an exercise of my clients to go through. And I learned it from a Franciscan brother years ago, of make a list of as many as you can, and at least try to get to 100, right? Of people that you need to forgive and people you would like for them to forgive you. And they could be alive and they could have passed away. And every day, just go, doesn't matter where on the list and in which direction it is. Every day, get to that next person on the list and just ask for forgiveness. You may not even remember what it is. Ask for forgiveness and give forgiveness. And, do it a few times in that day. And just by the end of the day, say, I feel good and I put it out there and I want to move past it. And if you have that opportunity to say that apology in front of somebody, even if it's somebody that you're waiting for an apology from, that's a lot more powerful. But, not everybody is strong enough to do that or has that opportunity. And like I said, it could be somebody that has also passed. Just that exercise alone of putting that energy out in the air of please forgive me or I forgive you. And you see how much that clears the air for you and you feel so much lighter of weight. And that is a huge piece that really helps you get through forgiving yourselves, because a lot of it you're holding on to is because you have a grudge, you're angry, or
Right.
you're mad at yourself. It really very rarely has to do with the other person. And most fights are just about ego and jealousy, which is the same thing, right? So.
Very true. Yeah. And that's what I was finding. I was finding that going through that exercise was helping. I think it's like any exercise, any process that you can do. The process all by itself isn't going to solve everything, but you're not trying to solve everything all in one swing. You're trying to take steps. And that's what I found it really was for me. I was successfully taking a step that enabled me to actually see a couple of other steps I hadn't even seen before.
Oh yeah. It's amazing. Like those first couple, how you just see things differently and how you view relationships differently. And you're like, we got into a fight in third grade and I don't even know why. Like that's just crazy. And especially when you look at like families that haven't spoken so long and they're like, you ask, I have a friend that like her family has been fighting for so long and you ask the youngest kids and you're like, why are you guys all mad at each other? And they're like, we don't even know. We're just sort of in it. And you realize like this next generation of kids are involved in something that doesn't have anything to do with them. They're missing out on having a relationship with their cousins. And it's all because of silly ego of, I don't want to say I'm sorry. And it holds you back. It really holds you back. And my first and second book are about those evolutions of cycles of life and, being connected to people and not understanding why. But the second book just focuses on forgiveness and seeing it from a different avenue of, after people have passed on and how it affects the generations of, well, this person won't forgive that person. And so these people are stuck in these ugly situations that they're like, I don't even know where this came from. And it's like, well, if you forgive, then everybody's world changes. But if you don't forgive, everybody's world changes the other way, and just how to release that beauty into the world. And that's just my interpretation of it as well. But you definitely could see once you forgive somebody, how much brighter your day is and how much better it is to just love somebody than to have such anger towards somebody.
Very true. Yeah. And you made passing reference to your second book. That's actually an important reference because we were talking earlier about crushed dreams. And you, when you were working in corporate America, you found your dreams being crushed to the point where you actually listened to an internal message that says, start writing.
Yes.
And basically launched a new career as a writer for yourself. And we're not talking about self-help books. We're talking about fiction novels, which is that's quite a leap.
Yeah, it seems crazy when you say it out loud, and it felt kind of crazy in the moment because I wasn't a writer. I actually, when I was in elementary school, they thought I was something wrong with me because I couldn't pass this like 4th grade writing exam. And it was like, I don't even know what, it was like a state exam. And there was a huge uproar of like, she can't even write a short story. It's just an essay, you know, and I just was sort of going like in a flow of writing. And I was like, I can't, you know, the fear they put in you of like, you're going to get left back and like, you know, you're never going to be more than a 4th grader. And I'm like, obviously I've moved past that and have a master's degree. So I think
apparently you were able to write after all, as it turns out. And I understand, I completely buy into that. My 1st grade teacher, when she did the parent conference, meeting where they go over how the kid's doing in 1st grade, why you need to know about 1st grade, I don't know, but nevertheless, that's what they were doing. She wanted to find something to balance the report because the report was pretty good. And so she said, well, he'll never be very creative. and that, I carried that for a while because my mom made the mistake of telling me that that's what she said. And so I started to believe it. It took a long time for me to finally realize, oh, wait a minute, I actually am creative. But it took a while to blow that one off.
Yeah. I love, you know, there's how many great stories of like, yeah, I was told when I was younger that I would never amount to this. And that's dream crushing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, well, I was told I was never going to be this.
Yeah, that's crushing a dream before you even have the dream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where so much of it starts, is those childhood memories of, well, someone told me once upon a time, no, so it'll never happen. I had somebody tell me when I was younger, somebody that I don't want to like get into too much of who it was, but that was very close with. And he told me, when you grow up, you're going to be heavy because there's people in your family that are heavy. So I had an eating disorder because I was like so afraid of it. And I'm like, I didn't even care about what I looked like or what my weight was, but because he kept repeating it to me.
Wow.
Like, you need to worry about that. And I was like, I never in my life worried about weight until that. And, you know, it's like, it's those brain games that people play and they think they're helping you.
Right.
You don't realize how much damage. And then you look at all these young girls through generations that have had so many issues, and I'm fine. Like, don't even worry about me. Like, it was like very short lived. And I decided I liked food so much more than caring about what, and I seem to be just fine. So
that's a good thing. I'm glad.
Yeah. I'm not saying it as a dramatized story. I'm just saying it's something I can relate to, of that memory of like, you are going to do this, you are going to be this. And you're like, but that's not how I see myself. But you're an authority to me at this age. And I have, I trust you that you know better, but that's a lot of unhealthy dream crushing for sure.
It reminds me of a study, actually a series of studies that was done in the 1950s, and they're fairly famous. I mean, anybody who's ever taken any education courses at the collegiate level has encountered these. But what they basically did is they decided to test a theory, and I won't tell you what the theory is up front because it's much more interesting when you find out afterward. But they had three elementary school teachers. I think they were like 5th or 6th grade, something like that. And they had 3 classes, and they divided the kids up into 3 classes with each of these 3 teachers. And the first teacher, they said, okay, we're giving you The advanced students, the second teacher, we're giving you the intermediate students, the third teacher, we're giving you the slower students. And what we want to find out is, what can you do with these students throughout the year? So they go through the school year, and at the end of the year, the first group, not surprisingly, tests very well. The second group tests middling. Third group tests poorly. And then what they find out afterward is they actually hadn't divided the kids up at all. It just was a random distribution. So the kids had lived up to the expectations of the teachers.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And I think I remember being told like there was some method of putting people in classes. And I think it was like a social experiment.
Right.
It's similar extremely to what you're talking about. But yeah, it is a conditioning thing of letting go of those voices that you've heard when you were younger and those preconceived notions that you were somehow planted at some point. And so there is a level of ridding of that part of your messaging in your brain. And, that's a layer of forgiveness, of forgiving the people that majority of it was not to harm you on purpose. It's just, that's what they knew. And that was the system, or that was how it happened. But there is a whole level of conditioning of just finding your true voice in all of that noise. And that takes a lot of time. And I always make it a point of when people come to me with the wild and crazy of, I'm 80 years old and, I'm going to go and run a marathon, or, not that there's people that do it, right? And
sure.
You never ran before, never crush it at all, because the crazier, the better. Like if you still feel at that age, I've never ran before, but I want to go out and run a marathon. There's something about that is so important to you. And that might just be what you can see. And that might have been when you were 20, like it's a marathon. That's the answer, but you never were able to do it. So there's a level of that too, because maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was something about that excited you. So it's the planning, it's the preparation, it's getting ready for something. It's doing something that's meaningful. A lot of these people that run a marathon have to raise money. So it could be that. It could be building relationships. It could just be a huge accomplishment in that piece of time that you're working towards. So there's a goal there. There's lots of pieces to what that might look like. And to be able to sort of dissect it, looking at just the meaning behind and the work behind what it is to run a marathon, getting through all of that could answer a lot of what it means to you to get there. So it may not 100% be running a marathon. It could be what it represents to you. So that's like a lot of unlayering of what's going on in your brain and what your brain can attach yourself to. And you could have already not even realized, accomplished a lot of it and not realized it and not celebrated it. So there could have been things like you were at, I don't know, one of your kids' sporting events that was like a whole weekend and you were there, but you were running up and down the field with your child, shouting and cheering them on. And that was just as long as a marathon, if not longer. And you were the coach, that could have been the answer. And you just never looked at it that way or were able to celebrate it in that way of, they won the championship and you were a huge piece of that. Like how exciting that is. So it's the way you look at it. And, I try to not crush people. I try to take what their dream is and say, let's dissect it and let's look at what it really means to you. And that's the fun and exciting part. So I say the crazier, the better.
I like that. That's really good. In fact, it also brings to mind there are lots of things that people have complained about where social media and the modern internet and so forth are concerned. And there's certainly plenty that could be complained about, but there's also a lot of good stuff if you look for it. One of the things that I see a lot more is people sharing stories that they're usually, they go viral because they're so unusual. Oh, wow. Can you believe that this person was able to do that? That kind of thing. But it's happening more and more. And I love it because what that tells me is more and more people are becoming more and more receptive to the idea of things happening outside the norm, that it's actually a good thing when things happen outside the norm. An example that comes to my mind is there was a video that circulated a couple months back of a 95-year-old great-grandmother who decided she wanted to take up gymnastics. And it's video of her doing tumbling, on a mat and so forth. And people are just marveling, like, she's 95 and she's doing that? That's incredible. How is that even possible? How does she not hurt herself? All this kind of stuff going on. But nevertheless, it's programming into the minds of everybody who was watching that video. Yeah, you can actually go past the boundaries that other people set.
Yes, you should go past the boundaries that other people set, because boundaries are just what whoever set them is like, well, this is as far as I can get, so don't go past that. And, you're born to be unique on purpose. So your borderlines are way past what somebody set millions of years ago or however long. And you're not here to be compared to other people and not here to be judged by other people at all. We're here to celebrate each other and to be excited for each other and just love each other. And why do we not do that again?
Yeah, good question. Real good question.
Yeah.
Jeffrey in the live stream posed a question that I think we're going to probably agree it's a fairly straightforward answer on it. But nevertheless, I want to know what your answer is. He says, does it help to tell your dreams to people that are affirming and encouraging?
Of course. What I also tell people is identify who your dream crushers are and who your dream team is. So, right away, you can label right away. Okay, the first person that's going to crush me is this. And we use that as the gatekeeper, right? But you want to build your team. And I do a lot of fundraising for companies. And part of what it is conditioning a situation. So, don't make decisions for other people on what they feel and what they want to give you. And it's the same as being on your dream team. Don't make a decision. They're in your life and you want them on your team. So I'm doing this. This is my dream. I don't care how crazy it sounds or looks. I want you to love and support me, whatever that means. And I want you to be on my team. And, yes or no. And if it's a no, that's totally fine. I thank you for your time. I appreciate it. You're open to come on my dream team anytime. And I want your dreams to come true too. So I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to send you love that your dreams come true and whatever that, and I just wish you well. And you'll be amazed that those will be the turnaround people that'll overjump the people that get on board right away. So you just, you build your team of like, I'm going to have good days and I'm going to have bad days. And I want to know who the first people are on my line of defense. Because when I have a good day, I want the people that are on my dream team to celebrate me. And when I'm having a bad day, the people that aren't on my dream team, I'm not going to go and tell them right away. I'm not going to go running to them for sympathy and to help me. I'm going to run to my dream team. And you'll find that your dream team gets stronger and stronger. They get so excited for you. And then they also are like, I'm watching you do this. And now it's jogging my dreams. And now I want to do this. And I want to find new dreams. And they're all of a sudden branching into their own. And you're watching all these people blossom and blossom and blossom around you. And the people that don't want to be in your team are sitting there miserable, trying to, throw things in your way or say nasty things because they just can't get off the couch to get there. They don't know how to do it. And you'll see how quickly they will turn around because they don't want to get left behind. And that's their fear all along is if you achieve this dream, you're going to leave me behind. It's like, no, but I asked you to be with me on the journey, not for me to say, hey, I'm going to leave you and never talk to you again. Goodbye. It's I want you to be with me on my team, and you have to honor that as well. And that's a huge piece of it is to build that team and know who your crushers are and turn it around.
Yeah, that fits in beautifully with a theme that I like to touch on a lot, the importance of social connectedness. But it's a more specific kind of social connectedness. and that you're being selective. Who are you going to socially connect with, and who are you going to give your energy to, and who are you going to give your attention to? And you're basically saying, do it with your dream team, not with your dream crushers. Like, yeah, all right. I like that. Definitely be selective about who's going to be your connections. And I'm looking at Sam nodding his head up and down. Now, Sam, I'm sure you've already sorted out who your dream team is so far in your life, I would imagine, right?
Oh yeah, I'd like to think so. But what you were talking about with your crushers and how you can, the process of turning them around, it's like, if you don't support the dream, support me. It's like, I thought that was a very beautiful idea and just a beautiful way to respond to somebody who's crushing or not intentionally, but crushing your dreams.
Yeah, very gently.
But it's also understand most of the crushers that are loud are because they can see it. They can see your dream and they can see you achieving it, but they just mentally don't know how to do it for themselves. So they see you and they don't know how to handle that because you're a huge part of their life, most likely, right? And they're like, I'm going to lose this person if they get there and I didn't get there. And I don't know how to deal with that.
That's fair. That definitely makes sense because they're coming from a perspective where they don't see that as possible for them. So then the idea that I would want to do it is like, what? That's probably going to frazzle them quite a bit.
Yeah. And it's like, I want to stay and live in my fear because I don't know how to get out of it. And I need you to stay and live in my fear with me. So right. In a way, you're on their team of them living in the dream crush. And you're like, no, I want to be on the dream team moving forward. Right. And they're like, no, I can't get off the couch. Like, no, you have to sit on the couch and drown with me. And you're like, I've done that. Like, I've been there and I've done that. And that showed me that I want to get further. And those are actually really strong moments to recognize because again, they could see you achieving it. And that's the huge part. They can see you achieving it, which means you've already have it in your head. You've already given out that energy that it's going to happen and I'm going to do it. And you know what? I'm doing it with or without you.
There you go. I love that. Yeah.
Jeffrey has another follow-up question. He says, how about that feeling of overcoming the crushers, the gloat of proving them wrong? Well,
I think that's just a natural reaction, but at the same time, I really don't promote the gloating at all. I think it's bad energy. I think it's a reaction for sure of like, haha. But I think it's also, like have that moment by yourself and be like, you know what? I didn't come this far to throw it in people's face. I came this far to prove to myself that I can do this and that this is my dream for a reason. It belongs to me. And I think it's important to not gloat, but to celebrate yourself and celebrate with your team. And when that person comes to you, however direction, if it's negative or positive, give it positive back because they're really asking you for help and they don't know how. They're asking you for encouragement and they don't know how. And if they come at you positively or negatively or like that, I'm really happy for you, but I knew it was never going to happen. They might put that spin to it, which usually happens of, I'm really happy for you, but I'm not, however it is, just spin it with the positive of like, you know what, I'm grateful that you were in some way, shape or form a part of it. And they may not understand that. But you know what? It's okay to be like, you know what? When you didn't want to join my team and, you didn't think it could happen, that drove me to know it's going to happen. And explain to them, not nasty, but, the way that I see it is that you gave me a confirmation that made me stronger and got me through that extra mile, got me through that last part. And you know what? You're here and let's just celebrate and enjoy it. We're all here for a short time and we're here to celebrate each other. So why don't we just celebrate each other right now?
I especially love that part where you mentioned that, let's see, how did you say it? I don't remember exactly how you said it, but the general idea was, that they're coming at you that way because they themselves feel the lack and they don't know how to ask for help.
Yeah.
That's really important to understand that because when we can maintain that perspective, then the moment that somebody's trying to crush our dreams, we realize it really doesn't have anything to do with us. It has to do with them. They're expressing their own feelings of inadequacy, and they don't know how to get around it. So that's the best thing that they know how to do. That's a really valuable insight, because now all of a sudden we don't have to take it, just to heart. We don't have to take it so seriously deep down. We can kind of let go of it. And of course, once we get to the point where we're really celebrating the true victory, which is what you were talking about, at that point, the gloating seems like unimportant. By comparison, it's so weak. It's such a weak vibration compared to the one of, wow, yeah, I'm achieving my goal. This is so exciting.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate that people can't get past their ego, don't know how to ask for help, don't know how to rely on others. And, they see the light in you. And so just shine it. Don't use it in a bad way, because it'll hurt you later on for sure. And I can name so many relationships where there were people that just couldn't wait to bring me down and, couldn't wait to trip me when I was walking, up a ladder, especially in corporate America. And it's like, was that necessary? And so I'm going to turn around and push you when you walk up a few steps? I mean, we already have that in this world. There's too much of that. We don't need that. We need to be like, come on, let's come with me. Let's all go together. We'll all get there. And some really good friends are the people that, you just give them a little bit of extra attention and, just to stop and say, how are you doing? How's it going? What's going on with you? Like, you have no idea how much that changes a person. And it could be your dream crusher, or you could just see people that are in a crush of just not having the greatest day. And I distinctly go back to a time where I was just having, like, everything was going wrong. Like, just had a bad breakup. I just started at a new company and went bankrupt, and just nothing could go right. And somebody that I didn't really know that well, I know she was crazy busy. She has a bunch of kids, and it was like, get this one to this sport and, school and this event and that event. And I know she was in the middle of it, and she was driving, and I just saw her from afar. We waved, and she turned around and came over and just stopped the car and was like, how are you? How are you doing? How's it going? And I was like, why are you talking to me? Like, you have so much going on. I'm all worried about her and what, there's something wrong here. Like, you want something. And she had no agenda. She was just she still is a very good-hearted, kind person. And she just took those few minutes, and I'm like, I know she doesn't even have that. But it turned me around at that time of my life. People do care about you and do love you. And I was in that dream crush space of never going to get out of this. My time went by. I messed this up. Yeah. I was really at a low at that point, and that made the hugest difference. And so once you really can identify how you've been dream crushed and how hurt you can be hurt by that, and turn it around. If you can't turn around to exactly that person in your world, or they choose to not listen, do it to somebody else. Like, turn it around for somebody that you could see is having a bad day, and just give them that love and energy. It doesn't hurt to say hello and smile at somebody. It really makes a big, big difference in their life.
That's very nice. I like that. And this is actually the overarching theme that you carry through as you write your novels. You've written 3 so far, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And every single one of them, these are the kinds of themes that you're playing on. I mean, as you're telling your stories obviously are what people are reading, but these themes are coming through over and over again. Can you kind of take us through that?
Sure. Well, when I wrote my first book, I really didn't have any rhyme or reason of what it was going to be about. I was just sort of following the command that I felt from God of, like, leave your job and go write. I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be writing, but this is what's coming to me. And when I finished, I was so emotionally attached to the characters because they were all made up, but stories come from somewhere. And I took just a lot of emotions and feelings that were a lot of dream crushing moments for sure. But when I couldn't explain, when no one around me could understand or see what I was seeing or feel what I was feeling. And that was in a way dream crushing of, you didn't see this piece of, what I went through. And I took those feelings and I would put it in a different situation in characters of that's how I felt at that moment and how hurt I was when everyone was like, what's the big deal? Like, why is that? Who cares? So, you had a bad breakup, like whatever, we all have a bad breakup, but if you're not in it, you don't know. And, when someone comes into your life that is so important to you and you can't understand it, I explained what it felt like for me. And I took it to the next level of, okay, I didn't understand in this life how I was connected to this person and how we were never able to get together or spend our lives together. And then in the next book, an explanation of, well, we were connected for a different reason from a different life. And so I feel like that's, again, an interpretation that, I made up from my feelings, and, people very either connect with it or just they're like, that's not for me. And that's completely fine. But if you look at it that way of like, there's a reason and there's a connection of, hey, why did I meet that person? Or, how did that situation happen to me? That's wild and crazy, and how you get through it. And it is really listening and following your heart and following your intuition, and know that you're loved and protected. And if you're always following what your heart tells you, you're always going to go in the right place. So the stories are wild and crazy. And, sometimes I get texts from people that are reading one of my books. And, for me now, it's been years since I wrote my first book, and they'll be like, don't hurt my girl, Valerie. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know who Valerie is. Like, want to fight? Like, is there people waiting outside my door? And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're reading my book. And, and it's kind of funny. You're like, oh my God, I haven't talked to you in like 5 years. What happened? Like, people are getting so emotionally attached to the characters, which to me that's how I felt when I wrote it. So it feels good to know that the emotions are real.
Well, what's the name of that first book?
My first book is called Precious and Fragile Things.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Cause it's helpful to know what the context is to some degree. Yeah. Give us like a broad outline. What's the storyline?
So Precious and Fragile Things and Live to Tell are connected. And it's about this woman, Valerie, and just, being born, not being connected with her family at all, sort of like the Cinderella story, of, I'm in this house of women and they all hate me and I don't know why. And, going through that, not having a relationship with her father until later on, and just seeing the connections, with her sibling and her mother, and having to kind of be alone, but finding a connection with her grandparents that she never met, and realized that they were sending her all these messages of love and, just support. And she didn't know anything about them. She just found pictures of them in the attic. And she's just like, I could see them in this life. And I feel like I'm there and I feel like I'm connected. So it's going through this life and then meeting people of like, why did I meet this person? And why do I feel connected? And how come we can't see each other again or find each other again? And so going through this whole motion, and then, getting married and having kids, and then the whole other side of, a whole new connection of family, and they're all differences of what happened to them, and then getting involved with them, and just how it's no coincidence, which you find in the second book, of how they're all connected, and, things that happen, how it makes sense now. And then you're watching the next generation of kids, really starting to learn that, their parents were like, oh, they always felt connections, from relatives. And now we're starting to see it, and them trying to figure it out. But in a beautiful way of, oh my gosh, like I can understand this now, and how they just live this beautiful life, from the lessons learned from their parents and grandparents. And, it's not all unicorns and glitter and rainbows, but, it's it is, I feel like it's a very heartfelt story. I've had people of all walks of life read it and really connect with it. And, I feel like I want to write books that tell people it's okay. Like, just because you had this tragedy or you were born into this family or this happened to you, your life isn't over. That doesn't write who you are. It's about, really just being your true self, listening to your heart, and the right people will come into your life and do the right thing, and the right thing will come back to you. And just know you're loved and protected and have fun. Gosh, we just don't have enough fun in this life. We don't smile enough. And, it's a lot of getting through stuff. Like, how did I get here? Oh my gosh, I'm never going to get out of this. And how you get out of it is, that faith, the faith in God, but also the faith in your heart, the faith in yourself.
So the second book, what was the name of the second book again? The
second book is Live to Tell.
Live to Tell. So that was a sequel off the first one. Was the third one also a sequel, or is that a new storyline?
No, it's a totally different story. It's a very fast read. I just had someone tell me the other day, they're like, I bought it and I couldn't even finish it. I couldn't go to bed without finishing it. I had to stay up and read the whole thing.
That's a good sign. That's really good.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. That one is more of a direct love story, but it's not just a romantic love story. It's a love story of, a mother and a child, and, that connection of how strong that connection is, and staying true to each other and no matter what, and believing that, I'm here for a reason, and this is how I vision it and seeing it. And then you see it in this place, and you get to that place and realize how it all unfolds, just by following that vision that's in your heart that keeps coming to you in your dreams.
I'm going to guess that the answer to this question is yes, because it's the most logical answer.
Okay.
But I'm curious, do you write from your own experience? I mean, you said the characters are all made up, but I mean, are you writing basically based on what your own journey has shown and taught to you?
A lot of it is my journey, not all of it. So I decided that every character that I wrote about would be three people that I knew, and I knew some of some people I met once, and I made this vision of what their world was or what their life was. And some people were people that I knew, and I sort of took these stories that matched, and I would flip flop. Like, if there was three people that seem alike in their one character, let's say it's Theo, and I'm like, oh, these three people in my world, or that I met once, and I feel like I know your story, or I made up your story. I am going to take an experience and I'm going to give it to Kathy, so, I have it very mishmash. And so, one character doesn't exactly represent one person.
Sure.
And if there is any characters that I'm like, you're totally gonna remember this story or this experience, because some things were like, I don't want to tell how something happened because I'm relating to a situation. I don't want to tell it how it happened, but there's going to be some things in there that you're going to be like, oh, I remember when that happened. Or, just to be like heads up. But I like to do the three characters as three people that I can relate to as one character, because then it doesn't represent one person. And it's not, none of them are happened. Like, none of the full story happened, but there could be little pieces of the story that happened. Like, this situation happened. Like, oh, I missed a flight. Remember when we missed our flight? How funny, like that kind of stuff. And, it's like, oh, that day was funny, and that really would fit into this story. So, it's things like that.
I can definitely see the advantage of drawing from multiple people to create a character, because it makes it so much easier to fill that character out. Because all you have to do is draw a little bit from this person, a little bit from that person, a little bit from that person. Yeah. And all of a sudden you have a full character. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah. And I have, so on in Soulmate's Body, the main character, I took from 3 people in my life, and they're all good friends of mine, but they all came from, a broken family.
Uh-huh.
And some of them have, really, really good relationship in this broken family. And, some don't, they all have a piece of like, some of it's really good and some of it's really not. And I just took that as one big story.
Sure.
And made it one character.
Yeah.
And none of them have ever thought or.
I never figured it out.
Until now.
Oh my God, they're writing about me.
No, I don't think, I always am like, you didn't see nothing? They're like, no. And, I also plant jokes in there for people too. Like, oh, that
Easter
was
eggs.
Yeah. Like, like one joke is, one person we always say looks like French Montana, and he's one of the 3 of a character. So I made like, oh, we're all going on a trip to Montana. And one of my friends is like, I totally picked up on that.
That's
like nobody else picked up on that. Like how funny is,
Right. Yeah. That's cool though. That's fun.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So silly things like that makes fun.
Now you also help people to become their own better dream managers. You have a whole program built around that. Tell us about that program, the Dream Manager program.
Yeah, so I am a certified dream manager coach, and I do one-on-one sessions for people, but it was initially built for employers to help their employees become the best version of themselves. Keep a high retention rate, stop this turnover, make mundane jobs into exciting jobs. And it's by having people fulfill their own personal needs and wants and their own personal goals. And once you give people the tools that they need to make their personal life happy, improves their relationships, they realize that being in a job is just a vehicle. It's a vehicle to feed your family, to be able to feed your dreams, to learn things, to have interactions with people. And it may not be your dream career, but if you can get into your dream career, we can help you. So it is working with employees to really keep them to understand that the company values them and they are loved and they are supported. And there's so many tools that corporations offer to their employees, and they just don't know that they're available to them, or keep saying like, oh, I'll do that later, or no, that's not for me, or it's too much paperwork and all that stuff. But it is basically this, it is the same program. It's just designed for employers to empower their employees. I also put my own layers of it, the whole pollination of, utilizing my whole network, all the skills that I have. I'm also obviously the dream meditation is a life coach, but I also am a meditation coach, and I do energy healing. I'm not saying that I'm going to do energy healing on you, but teaching people the energy. So like we said of, give back positivity instead of gloating in somebody's face. It's teaching how to change the situation, which is changing the energy around you and educating people how to look at it that way instead of, the jabs and bringing in that negativity. So I use the energy piece as to teaching people how their energy is just as powerful as anybody else and how it can really bring beauty to the situation and not harm.
You mentioned also in passing people who are not in their dream job. That's actually a fairly common situation. How do you help somebody address something like that?
Well, I usually always start with career because I think every single person can center their life of, well, I'm not happy in my career, or it's usually either I'm not happy in my career or I'm not happy in my relationship with my spouse. So, it's like, well, okay, let's just focus on career. And are you doing what you like? Or did you just get this job and it's a paycheck and you're afraid to leave because you're afraid of the money and you're afraid to go back to school. It's too much, or I don't have the money to get a further education. But if you were in your dream career, what would that do for you? Would that make you happy? Would that make you wake up in the morning excited to go to work? would that make you come home happy? And once you look at how your job, because you're spending 8+ hours a day either in your job, now that most people work from home, you're probably spending more time in front of your computer, where it was travel and work. You know, if you're spending that much time at your job and it's something you don't like, you're going to bring that home. But if you learn how to appreciate your job and make it something that you do like, or understand what it means for you to do the things that you like. And if it's, okay, I'm at this entry level job, you know, I'm stacking shelves and that's not what I want to do. I really want to be making the products and I want to be part of what people want to buy at this store. And so, okay, well, we can get you there. Like, let's get you into the right, education. Let's get you into these departments that are doing this kind of selection of what products are going on the shelf and look at what that is. Let's get you some training, like an internship sort of a process. Let's look at jobs that match what you're saying and let's figure out a way and a smart path to get you into that job. And once, you know, somebody's laying that out for you and building that path with you and giving you the accountability that you need to get there and reinforcements and encouragement, you know, you're going to come home and be excited about it, especially when we're giving you goals and milestones along the way. How exciting that is to come home to your spouse and be like, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe what happened today. And just every day be having an excitement level to come home and talk about, and then get into that job and be like, oh my gosh, this is my dream job and I love this. And just being able to spread that even more and how much productivity you get because you've been jogging these ideas around for so long.
Right.
And that improves your relationships. And that also makes you want to improve your health because you want to feel good. You want to keep that high going. So you're like, I want to eat more greens and I have all this energy. Let's go for a jog. You know, it just keeps breeding all this beautiful energy. And people around you love it and are excited, and you just see how it blossoms, and it's just a beautiful process.
That's fabulous. I love this. This has been a really great visit. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us and tell us your wonderful perspective on life and how to create the dream building life that you really want to have the most. Before we part company, I need to get some information from you. First of all, for anyone who wants to reach out to you, perhaps they want to find out more about your Dream Manager coaching program, how do they find you?
I try to make it as easy as possible. I don't expect people to remember how to say or spell Kruszewski. So I keep my website is Debby Kruz, which is DebbyKruz.com. My social media, I try to do the same. Keep it as Debby Kruz. So again, it's at DebbyKruz. And that's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube. And if there's something else, oh my gosh, I don't know.
Well, at least you're consistent. That makes it really easy, no matter what.
Yeah. And you know, I'm happy to do a consultation with you on what your dreams are. You're probably much further along than you actually think you are. And also would love to offer to all of your listeners a free download of Soul Meets Body, my last novel.
Oh, how lovely. Thank you very much. That's beautiful.
You're welcome. Yes.
So we'll make sure that we'll include a link to the website so they can find all that, find the link to the download and all that. Yeah. One other thing I want to tell you before we part company is something I make it a practice to do because you're like so many people who are out there just giving and giving. We all of us, and you included, there are many people who you'll never hear from them, you'll never see them, but you're reaching out to them. You're touching them through a podcast or through your books or through an article you wrote or something some content that you put out there. And you're touching them in ways that you didn't realize that you actually did something really great for them. I think it's important to recognize that. So thank you on their behalf for what you've been doing all this time and what you're continuing to do going forward.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.
We've loved it as well. Haven't we, Sam? This has been good.
Oh, it's been really fun. I've enjoyed hearing your perspective and giving me a lot to think about.
Awesome.
Beautiful stuff.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. And we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.